March 31, 1922. A small, isolated farm in Bavaria, Germany. The night is eerily quiet, except for the distant rustling of trees. Inside the Hinterkaifeck farm, 6 people unknowingly await their fate. 6 brutal murders. No clear motive. A case that has baffled investigators for over a century. This is the terrifying true story of the Hinterkaifeck murders, one of Germany's most chilling unsolved crimes. A family in isolation. The Hinterkaifeck farm was home to Andreas and Cecilia Gruber, their widowed daughter Victoria Gabriel, and Victoria's 2 children, 7-year-old Cecilia and 2-year-old Joseph. Alongside them was their new maid, Maria Baumgartner, who had just started working there that very day. The Gruber family lived in near isolation. Their nearest neighbors were over half a mile away, and their interactions with the outside world were limited. But in the months leading up to the murders, strange things had been happening. The ominous signs. Andreas Gruber had reported seeing unfamiliar footprints in the snow leading to the farm, but none leading away. He also found a newspaper in his home that he didn't recognize, and the family's house keys mysteriously disappeared. As if that weren't unsettling enough, the previous maid had quit 6 months prior, claiming the house was haunted. She spoke of hearing footsteps in the attic, strange whispers, and the overwhelming feeling of being watched. But Andreas dismissed it all as paranoia. He continued with life as usual, until that fateful evening. The night of horror on March 31st, someone lured 4 of the family members, Andreas, Cecilia Sr., Victoria, and young Cecilia, into the barn one by one. There, they were brutally murdered with a pickaxe. The killer struck with terrifying force, leaving their bodies stacked atop one another. Inside the house, the murderer then moved to the bedroom, where Maria Baumgartner, the maid, was slain in her bed. Finally, 2-year-old Joseph, Victoria's youngest child, was murdered in his crib. 6 lives were wiped out in a single night. But what happened next is even more disturbing. The killer, who stayed for several days after the massacre, the killer remained at the farm. The livestock was fed, the chimney emitted smoke. Meals were prepared and eaten. Neighbors even recalled seeing movement around the property. No one suspected anything was amiss, until April 4, when concerned neighbors decided to investigate. What they found inside the farmhouse would haunt them forever. The discovery. The scene was gruesome. Blood stained the barn floor, and the stacked bodies were barely recognizable. Inside the house, Maria and Joseph lay lifeless. The crime shocked the entire region, but what baffled authorities even more was the complete lack of evidence pointing to a suspect. Despite extensive investigations, there were no clear leads. No valuables were taken, ruling out robbery. The sheer brutality of the killings suggested personal rage, but who could have committed such an atrocity? Theories and suspects. The primary suspect was Lorenz Schlittenbauer, a neighbor who had been involved with Victoria. He believed that Joseph was his son, but it was later revealed that Joseph was the product of an incestuous relationship between Victoria and her own father, Andreas. Schlittenbauer's behavior after the murders was suspicious. He was among the first to discover the bodies and allegedly tampered with the crime scene. Some even speculated he stayed at the house after the killings. But there was never enough evidence to arrest him. Another theory suggested a vagrant or a mentally disturbed individual had been hiding in the attic, observing the family before striking. This idea stemmed from the mysterious footsteps and missing keys. The vanishing heads and the farm's fate. The investigation took another bizarre turn when the victims' heads were removed for forensic analysis, but were lost somewhere along the way. To this day, their skulls have never been recovered, and they were buried headless in a local cemetery. As for the farm itself, it stood abandoned for a year before being demolished. In its place now stands a small memorial honoring the victims of one of Germany's most perplexing unsolved crimes. A mystery that endures over a century later, the Hinterkaifeck murders remain a chilling enigma. Was it a jealous lover? A wandering killer? Or something even more sinister? One thing is certain: the ghosts of Hinterkaifeck still linger in the shadows of history, whispering their secrets to those who dare to listen. What do you think happened that night? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoy unsolved mysteries, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more chilling stories.